So what's going on YouTube? This is the Ninchmovies, and today I'm undertaking probably the longest video you'll ever see on this channel. I hope you guys are all ready. Grab some popcorn, sit back and enjoy this one. If you watch my shorts feed, you would have seen that I recently alphabetized, or at least put my VHSs in some sort of actual order for once. Now that that's done and it's all looking pristine, I just wanted to show it off and go over every single title I've picked up pretty much since January this year. I don't know the exact sort of number, but I'm definitely saying it's around 150 or so, maybe even more. It is a ever-expanding collection, and for 150 subscribers, I was wondering what could I do for this sort of milestone. I thought, why not do a collection overview? I've never done one on the channel, and for anyone that came later on and hasn't been here since the very first VHS update, it might be interesting and might showcase some movies that you guys haven't seen. So with that said, let's get straight into the video. Hope you guys all enjoy it. Basically, my collection is housed on two different shelving systems. There will be some editing because the way that I actually had to alphabetize it, this in particular shelf, they're double stacked. So, it won't be a bother to you guys, but I just thought I'd put that out there. We're starting off with just a couple of numbered films here. This whole bookshelf needs to go. It's actually dog shit. So I do apologize if I struggle to take certain films out. But we have 10 Things I Hate About You, one of my favorite sort of rom-coms, and obviously Heath Ledger is a GOAT. We have the live action 101 Dalmatians. I don't actually believe I've ever seen this, but I do like all the different stickers that come on the old VHSs. This one here says Dear Customer, and it's about a return and exchange. Obviously it's a massive sticker and takes up a lot of the title, but it sort of is unique to the time period that the VHS came out in. Now this next one up here, this I've just categorized as A for Alfred Hitchcock. So basically we have the triple pack of the films The 39 Steps, Jamaican Inn, and Secret Agent. Then we have The Lady Vanishes, which I showed off in my most recent update. We also have The Man Who Knew Too Much. We have Murder, The Number 17, and then we have in this little slip sleeve here in a different style, we have The Paradise Case. And actually, sorry, what am I talking about? We also have The Young and Innocent. So the Alfred Hitchcock collection is ever growing because, he's obviously released so many goddamn films and a wonderful director, and that's why I collect him personally. Then moving on, we have a bunch of Aladdin tapes. Of course, we have the original trilogy here, Aladdin, Return of Jafar, which is, it's an okay sequel. And then we have King of Thieves, which I can't quite remember which one has the voice actor of Homer Simpson as the genie. I feel like it's Return of Jafar. Fun films. A lot of Disney will be showcased in this collection. Then we have volumes of the TV show. We have Volume 1, Volume 2. I have a duplicate of that. Then we have Volume 3. Unfortunately, don't have Volume 4 yet, but we have Volume 5. Obviously, I just find these in the wild. The reason there's duplicates is simply because I pick them up as I see them. Sometimes I don't know what's exactly in my collection and I don't want to miss out. Overall, I have watched a couple episodes of this show. I do like it. For me personally, my taste for the Disney animated TV shows, I really like The Emperor's New School and the Lilo and Stitch show. But Aladdin's pretty damn cool. Then we have the film The Aristocats. I watched this film at my grandma's so much when I was growing up. Personally, one of my favorite Disney films, at least in the classic series. Then we have just an Arthur's tape. This one's a real old school one. I did watch Arthur growing up, but this looks a little bit before my time. This show's been running for so many goddamn years, so who even knows what episodes this entails. Then we have A Few Good Men, which I still have yet to watch. There's going to be a lot of those in here, unfortunately. Anna and the King. Now, this has been in my collection for quite some time. We have the Alien trilogy, and I actually just recently saw the new Alien film and really loved it, so these might get a revisit soon. A couple of dings, but this one's been in my collection since I was probably like 15, 16 years old, way before I thought I'd ever actually own a VHS player, so pretty damn cool. Then we have the Austin Powers box set that I showed off in a recent update. I still have yet to see these films. Cult classic comedies, but honestly, I just never watched them when I was growing up, and I want to change that very soon. Speaking of duplicates, we have 2 copies of Bambi. Once again, no real reason other than the fact that I probably just didn't know I had it, and I pick up any Disney that I see. It's not my favorite film by any stretch of the imagination. It's actually one that I've watched very little, but it is a Walt Disney classic. A classic that I do enjoy is the film Beauty and the Beast. Now, this is one of the best animated Disney films of all time, and it's actually surprising because obviously it's a Disney princess film, but if you haven't watched it, I mean, it won Oscars for a reason. We also have a duplicate of that. This is the Masterpiece Collection. We have the terrible Christmas special they did. I did watch this, unfortunately, and the animation on this is so jank. I have Belle's Magical World, which, once again, I think I picked this up simply because it was 25 cents, and this thing goes for, something like $30, which I did want to comment on just briefly here. I just wanted to say that I have been following a couple of different VHS collection sites on Facebook recently. Yes, I still use Facebook. I am as old as these videotapes. And a lot of people get really upset about resellers. And, this is why I'm presenting my collection as a whole, because you can see that I'm not selling these off. This is just my hobby. But you can't knock the hustle, really. VHS tapes are really, some of them are so rare and worth good money. And you just hope that you don't have to pay those ridiculous prices, but sometimes you do. That was just a little quick rant out the way. We have the Brave Little Toaster. This one has been sun damage to the shit. But once again, a very old tape I've had for a long time. I've actually never seen the film, though. Then we have A Bug's Life, which is probably one of the worst Pixar films, at least from the classic run, but I grew up with it. And, it's not an awful film by no stretch of the imagination, but the animation's not too good on this anymore. Speaking of an absolute classic in my eyes, we have the Bionicle movie. I obviously was a huge fan of the Bionicle toys growing up, and this first film, I actually watched it again recently, and it still holds up in nostalgia for me. So, maybe not a masterpiece of a film, but one that I grew up with and loved personally. Then we have the Benji clamshell, which I showed off in an update a couple months ago. I still have yet to see the film. My partner, she grew up with this and really enjoys the movie, so I picked it up for that reason. Then we have the Benji's Christmas Story. I'm a sucker for anything Christmas, so this will get a watch, unfortunately, at some point this year, but I'm keen to check it out. Hopefully I watched the original Benji before I watch this, but we just never know. One of my favorite films of all time, Back to the Future. This is in an ugly CIC clamshell type box, but one of the best films of all time, honestly, one of the best trilogies. Just such a fun adventure film franchise, really. Then we have the film Beaches, which I have yet to see. We have the film Big Mama's House, which is just, a classic from my childhood once again. Nothing special, but a decent comedy. And as we get to this bottom shelf, honestly, I'm laying on the ground. It looks ridiculous right now, but this is what I have to do. So if I can pry this out, we have A Beautiful Mind, which, obviously you can see all the Academy Awards. It's meant to be a great film. I have yet to see. Then we have the film Braveheart. Once again, I still have yet to see this. I know this is a sin. It's meant to be one of the best movies of all time, but I have yet to see it. We have Bridges of Madison County. We have the Billy Connolly Two-Night Stand, which I'm a huge stand-up fan, so this one will be getting watched sometime very soon. Then we have a couple of Babylon 5 tapes. I've said in the past that my dad's a huge fan of this. I have yet to watch them personally, but any old sort of sci-fi I'm into. I have a couple of Casper tapes here, one of the animated TV show, and then my partner bought me this. She grew up watching this, Casper and Wendy with Hilary Duff in it. Then we have one of the goats, this Chicken Run. Honestly, anything Aardman does, I'm a huge fan of, and I grew up on this. Just a really, really good comedy. We have Casablanca, picked it up simply because it's meant to be an all-time classic. I have yet to see it. Chasing Amy, in my top 3 favorite films of all time. I did my Kevin Smith list if you guys want to check that out. I think it still holds up. Chasing Amy is just one of the best films I've ever seen in my life, period. So check it out if you're into Kevin Smith-esque films. Then we have the film Charade. We have the film Closetland. And finishing off this terrible shelf, and we can actually get to probably a better filming angle, we have Collateral Damage, which I have yet to watch, but I know it's not meant to be Arnie's best movie, but I'm a sucker for Arnie regardless. All right, so now we're on to shelf number 2. With the power of editing, I will get to the back. Continuing on with the collection, we have The Cold Light of Day, which I did watch. I was considering reviewing this, just a bizarre film. I believe it was made in the Netherlands or something like that. I can't remember if it was dubbed over, but yeah, it's a weird sort of pedophile film. Not what I was expecting. Some up and down acting, that's for sure. But the main actor, Richard E. Grant, he's actually in the new Star Wars films as an Imperial officer. So take with that what you will. We have 2 tapes of the TV show Crusade by the creators of Babylon 5. I know nothing of it. Once again, I was just picking up old sci-fi. I'll get around to it one day, and you know, if I see any more tapes in the wild, I might as well keep collecting. We have the film The Dam Busters, which is one of my grandpa's favorite films of all time. One from my childhood collection. This is Daredevil vs. Spider-Man. This in particular 90s Spider-Man TV show was just off the rails good. Like, honestly, it's so damn good. And this was my introduction to Daredevil. I watched this tape so many times that I'd be surprised if it even still works, to be honest. I got to give that a look into. We have the film Dead Man Walking, which I watched about half of this. Unfortunately, I fell asleep to it, not due to the film being boring or anything, just haven't gone back to it since. I do really like Sean Penn's accent, and of course, you know, a death row sort of movie is always going to be appealing to me. I do need to go back to this one. We have 2 absolute bits of mediocrity. We have Dinosaur, which is just, you know, a forgettable Walt Disney film. And I'm not sure if it's forgettable, but it's not on my, you know, to watch list anytime soon. We have Dinosaurs the movie. This is from my childhood collection as well, but I don't recall ever watching it, and I really just want to check it out for these sort of like Super Mario Bros-esque, you know, special effects. And then we have the film Dirty Dancing here, which my partner made me pick up. I have seen the film. It's not my favorite, but a lot of people obviously, you know, have a big spot in their heart for this film. I think it's okay, and I'm not going to be upset that I own it. Then we have the film Dirty Rotten Scoundrels in this horrible big box. Honestly, I hate housing these big boxes. Have yet to see the film. The Dish, which I did a review on, actually a really well done Australian comedy, which I never thought I'd say. I'm not a huge fan of Australian cinema, but this one's definitely worth watching. We have the film Down to Earth, which is a comedy I picked up on a whim. I'd never heard of it, and honestly, I was really happy I did. This is a really fun and, you know, it's just a good comedy. I haven't seen Chris Rock be the leading man too often, and if you're a big fan of him, I'd recommend checking this film out. We have the film Duets in this nice pink box. I have yet to see this film. It's not high up on the to-watch list, but it is in the collection. We have the film The Edge. We have the film The Enforcer, which I do need to get around all these Dirty Harry films. I have not seen one. Clint Eastwood is obviously just a badass, but I've seen a lot more of his directorial films rather than him acting. We have the film Erin Brockovich, Excess Baggage, and finishing off this shelf, we have the film Extreme Survival, which was featured in my most recent update. Moving on to this next little cubicle here, we have the film Fire and Away with Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman. We have, this was also in my most recent Out and About video. What do they call them? This Fast Break 2. Just a basketball tape, more or less, but I really do like the clamshell. My favorite type of VHS to collect. We have Felix the Cat in this just horrible condition. That's from the childhood collection. We have the film Fever Pitch, the show The Firm, which is actually one of my few VHSs that is still sealed. I think I've got about 4 or 5 now that are still sealed, so I might just catch this one on streaming at some stage and keep it in that condition. We have the Flintstones, the very first episodes. This was featured in one of my very first updates, and I did watch this. I grew up watching the Flintstones and the Jetsons, so, you know, nostalgia. But overall, I think the Flintstones holds up way, way better than the Jetsons. I actually think the Flintstones is quite funny, to be honest. We have the film Flipper, featured in my most recent update. A childhood classic in Flubber, and I love the green case. We have the film The Fox and the Hound, which is a really fun and nice, you know, heartwarming movie, but not my favorite Disney film, but I did watch this quite a bit when I was younger. Then we have the film Foreign Intrigue. We have 4 Weddings and a Funeral, which this is high up on the watch list. I've heard really good things. The film Friday, which Funnily enough, the first time I watched this was on VHS a couple years ago. And yeah, this is one of my oldest VHSs in my collection. Good film overall. I think I have seen Every Single Friday now, but I can't quite remember. We have the film Fried Green Tomatoes, or Tomatoes. We have the film The Gift. Now, some of my prized possessions in my collection, I haven't done a whole lot of ordering. I pretty much just find all my VHSs out in the wild doing thrift shopping. But I did order these and some unique documentaries. We have The Greatest Trials of the 20th Century. So this one's the cult murders. And then we have the Ted Bundy and Son of Sam. Just a huge fan of true crime. You guys know it if you watch the channel. And VHS documentaries are my favorite because, you know, they're just so goddamn different to what the streaming services are putting out now. So yeah, a couple prized possessions there, as weird as that sounds. We have the film Great Expectations. And honestly, there is a review on my channel of this, but Gods and Monsters, one of my favorite films on the VHS. The good owner put me on this, and goddamn, it was worth it. Just really, really good film. Go watch the review if you're interested. Finishing off this little cubicle, we have the film Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. Next shelf, cubicle number 3. So starting off this cubicle, probably my most prized possession, we have Halloween 4 and 5 in the double feature. My partner bought me this for my birthday. All horror VHS tapes are just so goddamn expensive, and I actually hadn't seen these films until I purchased the VHS, and it was, you know, something about watching horror on VHS is what it's all about, honestly. Not the best sequels by any stretch of the imagination, but one of the coolest, you know, collectibles I have. We have The Heart of the Game, featured in my most recent update. The AFL, you know, I'm a huge fan. We have the film Hercules, one of the funniest Disney films. Honestly, this one holds up so goddamn well. We have the film High Crimes. Home for the Holidays, which is actually a really good film. Review up on the channel if you're interested in it. We have the film How Green Was My Belly, a very classy looking picture, but yet to see. What's it say here? I'm actually reading through the phone, sorry. Winner of 5 Academy Awards, including Best Picture 1941. And then we have the documentary BBC series The Human Body, which I still have yet to watch, but this was featured in my most recent Out and About. Anything documentary that interests me, at least the subject matter, I'm going to pick up on VHS. Then we have the film Ice Age. Honestly, one of the most classic animated franchises. I think they get progressively funnier. I have not watched the most recent Disney one, nor do I have any sort of want to. But yeah, especially the trilogy, honestly, just classic films, and happy to have it on VHS. We have the film Independence Day with this lenticular sort of cover, if you can see that, the White House going up. Really good film, actually. I don't mind this as a sci-fi film. Probably Roland Emmerich's best film, and one of Will Smith's sort of classics. We have another double feature here. We have the Jetsons bumper collection. One of the most mint condition VHSs I have. I paid about $25 for this. I did start watching these episodes hoping that I would find the love that I found when I watched the Flintstones, but the Jetsons sort of missed for me. It's not my favorite, but it is, you know, nostalgic. Speaking of nostalgia, we have the Jimmy Neutron Boy Genius film. Grew up with Jimmy Neutron. There's not much more I can say. This is from my childhood collection. And as you can see, it comes with the Nickelodeon orange tape, which is even more nostalgic to me. We have the film Johnny Stachino. Yeah, this is just one of those movies that will get watched someday. It doesn't look great. It was 50 cents, but hopefully it's so bad it's good. We have the film The Jungle Book. Probably an unpopular opinion, but I really have no need to watch this film. I watched it a couple times as a kid. It just never grasped me how it did others, but it's in the collection. We have the film Kissing a Fool, which I did consider about reviewing as well. Jason Lee is one of my favorite actors of all time. And if you're a fan of David Schwimmer, this is a sort of different role for him. He made this while he was making Friends. I think he's a producer on the film. He's super sleazy in it. It's just a funny movie, and it's directed really, really well. And then finishing off the cubicle, we have the film The Land Before Time, which is honestly a really good film, one that I remember fondly from my childhood. And rest in peace to the poor little girl that got murdered who voiced Ducky. Look into that story if you want to see something grim. Cubicle number 4. Hope you guys are all sitting through this, enjoying the video. I know it's a long one, but let's get through it together. So we have The Land Before Time 2, which I probably have seen. I do vaguely remember this little dinosaur in the front, but it's been a long time since I've watched these films. I also have number 3. Honestly, they made so many of these sequels. I'm happy with the trilogy. I feel like that's a good number. I think they made like 15 or 16 of these things, to be honest. Crazy number. Then we have the film Lady and the Tramp, a classic one that I watched a lot as a kid. I haven't watched this in many years. I'm not going to say it's like one of my favorites, but it is a classic overall. We have the film The Lion King, which is one of the funnier Disney movies, obviously a classic. And then we also have its sequel, Simba's Pride, which I don't know if I've ever seen this one. I am a sucker for Lion King 1.5 or Lion King 3, the Timon and Pumbaa film. If I can find that on VHS, I'll definitely pick that up. We have The Little Mermaid, Stormy the Wild Seahorse. I believe this is the TV show. Once again, I just pick up anything Disney, even if it's not really my thing. We have the documentary of The Legend of Marilyn Monroe, which me and my partner did watch this. Decent documentary, nothing that's going to blow your socks off, but I honestly didn't know a whole lot about her, so it was interesting enough for me at the time. We have the film The Life of David Gale, which, yeah, this is a movie to experience. I'm possibly going to review this in the future. I kind of want to rewatch it again, but honestly, yeah, really, really good film. Check this out. I know it's got Spacey in it, but, you know, if you can get past that, watch a really, really good thriller. We have another classic film. We have Love Me or Leave Me. I have yet to see it, but I explained that any of these sort of like 50s era VHSs, they look so clean, look so vibrant. It makes me excited to check the film out one day. Moving on, we have Monsters, Inc., which is a classic Pixar film, one I grew up with and have fond memories of. Honestly, one of the coolest Disney films when I was growing up, Mulan. I love this film from start to finish. I think it's a great film. I really need to revisit it, to be honest. We have a couple Mighty Mouse tapes. I'm not going to go through them. From the childhood home, they're all banged up. It's not my favorite character by any stretch of the imagination, but I watched both these tapes over and over when I was younger. We have another NBA tape. We have the Magic Challenge. We have the original Men in Black. Honestly, I know they made a lot of money, but looking back on it, kind of feel like Men in Black's a bit slept on nowadays. Honestly, a really good, you know, the trilogy, I'm a big fan. We have the film Men of Honor, which I have a review up on the channel, so don't really need to get into it. We have the film Message in a Bottle. And then finishing off the shelf, we have the film Miss Congeniality. But the lighting will be a bit dimmer down on these shelves. I do apologize, but moving on, we have Mission Impossible 2, which I have yet to see any of these films. Some people just absolutely froth these movies. I have no idea what to expect. Tom Cruise isn't my favorite, but I will give it a go one day. We have Mirror Cracked, one of the nicer looking VHSs. I just like this sheen to it. Need to check the film out. We have the film Moulin Rouge, which this is one of my oldest VHSs as well. This is actually, it would have to be my favorite musical of all time. I'm not a huge musical person, but I love this movie from start to finish. Ewan McGregor. Who would have thought Obi-Wan could sing this goddamn good? And honestly, it's one of Nicole Kidman's better films too. We have I'm not even going to try and pronounce that. The Perilous Pursuits of Mr. Bean. There we go, we got it. Just a Mr. Bean 2-episode VHS. We have the film Mrs. Doubtfire, once again with its infamous $119 sticker, which thank you for all the feedback on that update out and about, whatever it was. People were sort of telling me how much these VHSs really were worth when they were first coming out. It was a bit of an interesting fact there, so that is a real price tag. And we have a couple of Muhammad Ali tapes. We have the When We Were Kings, and then we actually have some of these fights here. We have him versus George Foreman, one of the greatest boxers of all time. Happy to own them. Next one up is the Boris Karloff, The Mummy. One of the cooler VHS covers. I think it makes the movie seem a lot more interesting than it is. I'm a big fan of any of these, you know, classic horror films, but I'm much more of a Frankenstein fan. than I am The Mummy. We actually have one of the smaller VHSs, if you can see that, in this slip sleeve. We have The Negotiator with Spacey again. Have yet to see the film. Then we have a series of NFL tapes. I picked these up quite a little while ago, but once again, I'm just trying to get into a lot more of the American sports. They were all about 50 cents a piece. You know, we've got greatest touchdowns. We've got the Blunder Zone, which I do believe is the only one I've watched thus far. But, you know, slowly getting into the NFL, some cool tapes to own. We have the film No Way Out. We have the film Notting Hill, which I still, you know, this is high up on the list because I've heard nothing but great things. I just have yet to see it. Then missing its spine, unfortunately, but we do have a really nice clamshell of Octopussy. So I've never been a huge fan of 007. I mean, I guess in the fact that I probably only seen one or two of them. I've always been interested, though, to actually get into the series. So at some stage, I will watch this in particular film. Is Roger Moore anyone's favorite 007 out there? Let me know. And then we are finishing off the shelf with October Sky, which I still have yet to see, featured in my most recent update. On to the next cubicle, we have the film One Fine Day. Pinocchio, an all-time classic, one of the very first Disney films. Actually a really nice cover, I think, in my opinion. Watched this to death when I was a kid, but haven't revisited it in many years. We have the film Pocahontas, which I'm actually struggling to think if I've ever actually seen this film. Obviously, I know of the story and, you know, the comparisons to films like Avatar and things like that. I actually should give this a watch sometime. Is Pocahontas anyone's favorite? I've never really seen it in the discussion, but I haven't personally seen the film. Really cool cover art, though. We have another clamshell, and this one is actually a roadshow. It's in average condition, but we have the film The Philadelphia Experiment, which, you know, I was just picking up simply for the fact that it was a roadshow. It was on the cheap, but actually a very interesting looking premise. So have you seen this film? Let me know down below. We have Harrison Ford in Presumed Innocent. We have this really thin clamshell of Pretty Woman. I actually have never seen this film, so we're going to give it a check out at some stage. It's meant to be a classic. I really think this is one of the nicer looking clamshells, and it's retained its sort of clear colour, which is nice. Speaking of prized possessions, we have all the Psycho films, the original. I'm not crazy about this cover art, but an absolute classic here. I do have reviews up. Some of my earliest reviews were on these films. We have Psycho 2, which I've watched a couple times since reviewing. Actually a really fun sequel, a lot more gruesome than the first one. Psycho 3, debatably my favorite. It's actually, yeah, I would say this is my favorite overall, definitely. It's directed by Perkins. I think this is where Norman gets to be the craziest. This is one of the best slasher sequels in my opinion, especially from this type of era. A surprisingly great made-for-TV special, Psycho 4, The Beginning. I just think this premise really was just something interesting. I would highly recommend it. It had a lot of flashbacks. Seeing Norman's childhood, actually, there's a lot in Bates Motel that is borrowed from this in particular film. Then we have this horrible yellow clamshell, not clamshell, sorry, big box. I'm surprised this can't be an original case. But we have not seen the film Random Hearts. A Nickelodeon tape once again, one from my childhood, Ren and Stimpy. Just a great gross out sort of cartoon from back in the day. We have the film Rent-A-Cop, which I picked up just simply because the cover art was amazing and I've never seen Burt Reynolds be a star, so we're going to give this a go. Hopefully it's cheesy fun. We have the film Road to Perdition, which I enjoyed so much I ended up reviewing. Really decent gangster flick, and Tom Hanks is just, I just don't think he can make a bad movie, honestly. We have the film Rocky Horror Picture Show, an absolute classic in the community, but one I have not seen. I will change that at some stage, and Tim Curry just is an interesting human being. We have the Romeo and Juliet film, which I haven't seen since high school when I was reading the Romeo and Juliet Shakespeare novel. It was never my favorite, which is surprising because I really do like Leo as an actor, and this is from the director of Moulin Rouge, but honestly, you know, he also did the Elvis film, which was decent. Sometimes his way of directing is just more distracting than it is engaging, and yeah, I don't know, not my favorite. We have the classic Robin Hood with this sort of unique cover art. Once again, like Pocahontas, I'm unsure if I've actually ever watched this. I'm sure I would have when I was a kid, but just no memory of it whatsoever. We have the film, to finish off the shelf, we have Rules of Engagement. So one of the funnier duplicates in my collection, we have the film Runaway Bride, and we also have it again, Runaway Bride. I have yet to see this film, just a mistake. My partner picked me this up after I bought it earlier in the week. Could be a fun film. Are you a real collector if you don't have 2 copies of Runaway Bride? Then we have just a bunch of Scooby-Doo tapes. Everything here are just TV shows. We have Foul Play in Funland. What do we have? Spookiest Tales. We have Greatest Mysteries and The Winter Wonder Dog. Surprisingly enough, even though it sort of showcases newer animation, I'm pretty sure I watched every single one of these, and they are actually the classic Scooby-Doo cartoon from the 70s, which I'm not complaining, because I love any sort of form of Scooby-Doo. I kind of nearly would rather that, but the Cartoon Network show itself as well would have been cool. And then we have a couple of the movies. One I actually used to own on DVD, and that is The Reluctant Werewolf. When I first started collecting DVDs back in the early high school days, this was one of my first DVDs, and yeah, a very 80s Scooby-Doo film. And then we have the infamous Scooby-Doo meets Batman, which I have not watched, but I'm sure it's just god-awful. Then we have Sleeping Beauty, which, once again, I don't think I've ever seen this. This one makes a lot more sense since it is a princess film. I wasn't purposely going out my way to watch the princess films as a kid, but I'd be surprised if I didn't. I do have a lot of sisters. Moving on, we have Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs in the Masterpiece Collection. Is this the first Disney film animated they did, or was Pinocchio first? I can't quite remember, but watched this a lot as a kid. Haven't watched it in many, many years. We have the film The Sword and the Stone, which I actually watched when I picked this up. And it's a fun movie, honestly. Merlin's a really cool character. It's classic Disney. This is actually one of the better classic Disney films, in my personal opinion. Then we have the film Shrek. Similar to Ice Age, just one of the most classic film franchises of all time. Really a movie that nobody, I don't think in their right mind, would have thought how big this film was going to get, and this series. But yeah, the first Shrek, it'd be my second favorite in the franchise. I'm a huge fan of Shrek 2. My one and only Simpsons tape, this needs to change, but we have The Dark Secrets of the Simpsons. Obviously, I own all the Simpsons DVDs that they ever released, but the VHS collecting is where we're at now. We need some more Simpson tapes. So yeah, a couple classic episodes. Can I even get into The Simpsons? Not really. Huge fan. Then we have a big box of Scary Movie. The Scary Movies with the Wayans brothers, honestly, are really good films. It's as simple as that. After that, you can get rid of them. Then we have the film Schindler's List, which, once again, similar to Dead Man Walking, I watched probably about 2/3 of this film. This one is quite a bit longer, but I fell asleep to it and just never saw the ending, which is a sin, I know, but I was really enjoying the film overall. Need to get back to it. Then we have the film Seance on a Wet Afternoon. Interesting film, need to check it out. We have Shakespeare in Love, which I once again watched in high school. I don't really know why I picked this up overall, because I don't remember enjoying the film too much, but we're going to give it a go one day. And finishing off this shelf, we have the film Shiloh, this cute little fella. On to the last cubicle we have here, but there is a couple of overflow films up top. We have the film Snatch, which I still have yet to see, but one of my friends from high school who watches my videos, he mentioned this is just one of his favorite films of all time. So higher up on the list now that he mentioned just how good it is. Then we have the film Someone Like You, Young Hugh. One day I'll watch it, you know, romantic comedy. I'm a sucker for it when I'm in the mood for it. A duplicate I'm actually happy to have, and these are the special edition Star Wars trilogies. One I paid about $25 for, and then this one I paid $5 for. This one still has the stickers. So yeah, huge difference in price. Obviously I bought the $24 one first, and then saw this at a snag a couple weeks later and couldn't go past it. And then we also have the widescreen, whatever. The version of Star Wars Episode 1 with the extended pod race scene. We have the unauthorized Star Wars story, which this was originally one of my sealed VHSs, but I have since watched it when I was on the Star Wars kick, when I did my sort of ranking video. Really cool documentary. It wasn't professionally made, as in, like, this is sort of like a bootleg documentary, and so some of the interviews are, you know, the audio goes a bit in and out, but overall, really good documentary, worth watching if you're a Star Wars fan. It's pretty much like all the stories prior to the Phantom Menace coming out. I think that's what this documentary was for, hyping up the Phantom Menace. We have the film The Tale of the Frog Prince, which I really just want to check this out because this is one of Robin Williams' first films, and I did look this up on IMDb, and there's barely any reviews of this, so very obscure title. We have Tarzan the Ape Man. We have the classic The Thing, which I have seen once. I do need to revisit. Classic sci-fi is always a favorite of mine, and it actually birthed one of the best remakes of all time, that being John Carpenter's The Thing. Now, this VHS is actually one of the most expensive in my collection. I think this runs about $80, and can you believe that with this bootleg-ass looking front cover? Like, honestly, one of the worst cover choices ever, but fantastic film. We have the animated Three Stooges tape. Probably the worst condition VHS from my childhood home, Around the World with Timon and Pumbaa. Honestly, still to this day, these two can make me laugh. Just grew up on it. This is part of the TV series, and this tape obviously got very, very loved as a kid. Then we have the film Titanic. All sorts of record-breaking, you know, everyone knows the story of Titanic. It's an absolute classic. Not one I watch too often, simply due to the runtime, but, you know, a fun movie to revisit every couple of years. And finishing off this shelf, we have the Tigger movie, which once again is from my childhood home. Probably my favorite character from the Winnie the Pooh universe. I definitely relate to his ADHD sort of nature. So we're nearly there. So it started to overflow. I need more shelving, but pretty much we have Toy Story 1 and 2. Toy Story 1 being in immaculate condition. I picked that up in a recent Out and About. I'm going to say Out and About number 3. Toy Story 2, one of the most slept on sequels. Honestly, I prefer it. I think it's my favorite Toy Story. We have the UFO cover-up documentary, which is one of my very first reviews on the channel. Just an interesting documentary to own, especially if you're a sort of tinfoil hat nut back in the day. We have the film Under Siege. We have the film Unforgiven. Walking with Cavemen, one of my more recent reviews. Really good documentary. Once again, going back to Aardman, we have Wallace and Gromit, and this is pretty much what started it all, one of the classics. Not the best short they did, but it is the OG, and I kind of like seeing the animation be a bit more rough in this one. Then we have The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh. We have Woody Woodpecker. This is just a WWE tape that I picked up simply, once again, just trying to get into some different sports. We have the film The Yards. Yesterday's 1962, which I watched and also featured on a short feed. Nothing special, very, over and done very quickly, but just interesting to see what was happening in the year 1962. And finishing off the collection, we have the special edition of Gone with the Wind, which is a double tape here, set up like that, but simply with the wide box. If I was going alphabetical, it's never going to fit on the shelf, unfortunately. So there it is, guys, job done. I probably won't do another collection overview for at least a year. Let the collection keep going. But honestly, if you've made it this far, thank you so much. Leave the video a like, add it to your favorites, subscribe. Thanks for all the support, guys. I've been talking for way longer than I used to talking. I'm going so mush mouth, so let's just end it here. Thank you all.